to sacrifice yourself in the name of love is not suicide. True love never dies. But then that's all you know is how to love. If all you know is how to love, then can't nobody break me. Why even try? I mean, of course I can go down into, the negative ways of thinking of who I used to be and stoop down to those levels of the sinisters, the ones who like to commit the crimes. But then everybody knows that the only way to defeat darkness and what they like to consider as power is through light. You find these things out, the further you're going through this darkness and you're not understanding why. If you're still hiding behind your shadows, you're fearing either what's unknown or you're fearing what you're capable of. But that fear needs to be embraced, because that fear is not fear, really. Those are butterflies in your stomach trying to let you know that you have a meaning. Ask yourself, what is your self-worth? Ask yourself for real. Lock yourself behind 4 walls and a closed door. Nobody to distract you, nothing. Close your eyes. Embrace your own soul and ask yourself, what is your self-worth? And then give yourself everything you know you deserve. Accidents happen, people will be people, but let go and let God if you believe in a higher power. If not, believe in yourself, because, you are your own higher power. You have the strength to alter everybody's ways of thinking of you by not even focusing on them. For everybody who's going through negative emotions or feeling some type of way, because they're going through something, if you allow somebody to say negative things to you, whether they call you names or they try to hit you or something, by saying the same thing in return as to what they're doing to you is exactly what they want. See, if you're able to just never show any emotion, thank God I was detached from mine, but I've been working really hard since I was 3. If you just don't show emotion, even if you feel the emotion inside, don't show no emotion. Every time they're seeking it, every time they cuss you out because they want to hear you cuss them out. They want to see you flip. They want to feel your rage. They want to see what you're going to do so then that way they can do it back to you 10 times harder. Just don't speak. Show no emotion. And I guarantee it, everything's going to start to change. Because that's when they're embarrassed. And that's when they don't know how to act, because they can't get what they want out of you. The only person who should have control over your own emotions is yourself. If others are able to get the emotions out of you, know that you are weak and you can't control your own emotions. And who are they to control your emotions? They are not you. They did not come out your mother's womb. You are your own soul, your own body, your own vessel. You choose what to do with your life. And stop letting others choose for you. Realize and ask yourself once again, what is your self-worth? I got a story to tell you guys. It'll go for days. The name's Love, but everybody calls me Takara Andreas Hicks, or Miss Lady Love. Horror. It's all I've ever watched since I was a kid. I don't really watch anything else, unless it's comedy, depending on what kind of mood I'm in, really. But mostly horror. It's kind of simple. There's, of course, a few times in my life, but the most memorable time would be the first time ever, and I was 3 years old. And my best friend was my god brother. He's the one who stayed with me and my brothers at the house throughout most of our life. He was 16 at the time, but he was the only one who would play with me and, be there and get the monsters away from the dark closets. And I remember one day, I was afraid of the dark, and I went out and I asked my mom, could my godbrother come stay in the room with me so I could, hide away from the monsters. And when he came into the room, it's like his whole posture was different. I remember him having his head down. I remember him walking in, and then he closed the door behind him. And that was normal, but when he locked the door, that's when everything became a little abnormal. And then he walked closer to me, and usually how it would work is he would sit on a chair closest to the door, and that's how he would protect me. But this time he walked in, he locked the door, and I remember him coming close, and he said, I'll protect you from the monsters. I'll protect you from the monsters, but the only way it's going to happen is if you lay right here next to me. And I didn't think anything of it. Like I said, he was my best friend. And the way everything kind of went about was not something I wasn't used to. It wasn't something that I felt like I should be in fear of. It wasn't something I felt like I was in danger of. I just felt like the pain in general was just not something I've never felt when it came to this person who is the only person who I've ever played with, like my best friend. Man. Anyways, so he laid down next to me, and he's like, "You need to close your eyes and picture the monsters going away." And which I did. I was wearing a little all-white Barbie nightgown, and I had my best friend. He was like a little white bunny teddy bear, like a white colored bunny, but it was like a teddy bear. And I called her Snowflake. And I don't remember very much as to the entire event occurring, because at some point in time, I kind of just drifted off into some little fantasy world of mine. And I drifted so far away that I didn't remember anything until I woke up. And when I woke up, I was in a pool of my own blood. Couldn't find my teddy bear. And nobody was there, so I couldn't help but just kind of tell myself that maybe I had spilled some Kool-Aid or something while I slept. Whatever excuse I could tell myself to just not make the realization of what just happened. Of course, I was aware of it. I didn't say anything, though, because I didn't think it was my place. No one really cared really what I did or who I was with or where I was at. And that's at 3. So I kind of just kept it moving. And every single day, Mom was never there. Grandma, basically, she was never there. So he would just kind of have his way with me whenever he'd like. It went from at night visits trying to hide me from the monsters, knowing that he's been the monster the whole time, to snack break and nap time, lunchtime, all the way up to the point where I got so comfortable with this routine that I approached my grandma, and I approached and I said, I remember she was sitting in her bedroom, and she's watching her TV, nothing's like normal. And I sat next to her. I crossed my legs like so. I have to be now 4 at this point. I leaned back and I said, "So how does it feel to you when it comes to being a woman?" She looked at me like, "What?" She looked at me like, "What are you talking about?" And she said that. She's like, what are you talking about, Pocket?" That was the family nickname. And I was all like, "I'm a woman, Mom." Just like that. And she said, "Excuse me?" And when I told her what happened, because it's her best friend's son who they have here living in this house, I told her what happened, and she did nothing. Cops never came. I mean, at some point in time, he left, but till this very single day, if you would go down south right now, she would still be best friends with the same woman. And it will always be a constant reminder, because nobody cared. But that was life. So when that becomes life, then you see love differently. That was the first experience. Second time came by the time I was 6. I was with my friend Patty. It was 3rd grade, and she was the only female friend I ever had. And one day she pulled me over. She had heard my story when I was 3. It was all I knew, you know what I mean? And she pulled me over one day, and I could just see the trouble on her face. And she said, "Takara, remember that story you told me when we first met?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well," because both of her parents are deaf. She's got 5 brothers and sisters, little brothers and sisters. She's the oldest one. She's like, "My dad touches me." I was like, "Well, what do you mean by he touches you?" I was like, does he have sex with you?" And he was like, "No, but he touches me, and I don't want it to get to that point." And I could feel the fear in her eyes of not knowing what she can do. And I told her, I was like, because like I said, my parents didn't really care what I did or where I was at. So I told her, I said, "Ask your dad if I stayed with you for a month, or if I just stayed with you, if he could do everything that he does to you, to me, as long as he doesn't do it to you." She asked him in sign language. I mean, I was 6, I didn't know that language, and he agreed to it instantly. But she always had to be in the room and watch for this happened. It went on for about 2 months. And I do know at the end of it all, she did find herself. She told me about 10 years later when it came back. But at the time that was occurring, in that 1 month that I was able to do everything and just take the load off of her, that's when I decided to try to tell the mom, who was also deaf. It was the moment I tried to tell the mom, she took the whole family and left the state. And I didn't see Patty for 10 years until the day I gave birth to my son. And that was the day she told me that if it wasn't for you, I would have never found myself. That's all I needed to know, because that's the whole reason why I did what I had to do. And it wasn't something that I was sacrificing at the time, because at the end of the day, it was all I knew. And it might sound a little sick or twisted, but because they took, at that time, the only person who was showing me any attention, even though I was a kid and I didn't know the attention that I was seeking was so bad, they took that away from me, and I had no family, I had no friends, I had nobody to play with because they took the only playmate away. So I looked at that time and situation as a way to just play. And she found herself, but I already knew my place, so it wasn't gonna really scar me too much. At that point in time, I knew I was gonna be here for a while, and I had already knew, based off my own train of thoughts, that I was gonna endure a lifetime of obstacles, pain, and everything else that came with it, because I'm gonna be the only one who's gonna be able to endure it and get through it without it even affecting me at all. It happened again at 8. My stepdad, on our way to my grandmother's funeral in Iowa, he had his way, on the plane, by the way, with mom and the brother sitting in the back. Once again, kind of at that point, you just let them have your way. You don't know when to fight back when you know you have no strength as a kid. So everything seemed pretty good at that point in time, all the way up. Well, it didn't seem good. I was in a really dark state of mind my entire childhood. So dark to where I can't even remember my childhood now as I speak. I have no idea. I could just remember the vivid, distant memories of the impacts that I had on my life that were so severe to me. I can't remember nothing else. And by the time I turned 18, that's when I had my son. And that was the first time ever in my life I felt the light, and I felt the love, and I felt warmth, and I felt security, just the whole power, the higher power, spiritual belief. Like I'd never in my entire life felt it. But that's why I knew since I was a kid to call myself love, because I thought that was the closest I would ever get to it. At the time I turned 21, I had my daughter, and that's when I got raped again. Once again, it was one of those situations to where I was asleep in my own bed, in my own home, and I had my son laying next to me. And I had my girl Katie staying with me, because, you know, at the time, the father of my child wasn't in the state. So I had my best friend Katie staying with me, and I guess at some point in time, she couldn't sleep, she got bored, so she called some friends over, and the friend she called over a friend who she never met before, and my door was closed, and all I remember is just waking up to the action occurring, and Terrence crying, my son, and I was pregnant. I was like 6 months pregnant with my daughter at that time. Yeah. And when everything was occurring, at first I was thinking it was just a very vivid, detailed dream. Yeah, because I'm thinking not subconsciously, I'm in my own home. I'm not really thinking this is surreal until I hear my son's cry. When I hear my son's cry, that's when I try to open my eyes, but I can't see nothing. It's pitch dark. And all I did was get really stiff. I remember stiffening my body, getting really still. And I remember saying, just, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Like, who the are you? In my room, with me and my children, who are you? And I couldn't see him. I couldn't see him. So the louder I'm asking, who are you, repeatedly, that's when Katie at some point opens the door. And that's when she's like, what the fuck are you doing? I told you not to go in that room, la-di-da. And at that point in time, my whole body, the nerves just kind of calmed down. And I realized, okay, if Katie's still here, then obviously this is not as I'm obviously not dealing with a psycho killer or anything. This is somebody who she knows but is about to get it. So I walk outside because Katie got him out of the room. I call Katie in the back because I'm trying to calm my son down. And she tells me, she's like, I don't know who he is. He came with her homie. And I was like, and you let him in the house, why? And she was like, well, because we were just supposed to drink. We'll sip a little bit. That's when I realized, okay, I'm gonna just leave this whole situation alone. But I told the dude as he was leaving, because he was scared at this point, I said, just realize you will never break me. Nothing can. But I will haunt you. I would do everything I could to just subconsciously try to tell these people how much I will haunt your dreams. Because there's nothing you can do that you're ever going to get that satisfaction nor the benefit of the doubt of ever seeing me feel like I'm a victim of any crime you guys commit. My mind's way darker than that, but I found my light. I found my peace. Everything's getting better up until 2 months ago, where I was kidnapped and raped again right over here on the hilltop. Just moved out here. I don't know who this person is. This is a case that we're just now officially going through. That's probably got to be the most memorable situation to occur for me as of lately, because when everything was said and done and how everything went down, I just got done visiting my daughter at grandma's house. This is the only time that I do not need my purse. I don't need my purse because I'm just visiting my daughter. So I just had my bus pass. I didn't need anything else. Only time I didn't have my purse, in which my purse carries, the brass knuckles, the big pocket knife, the pepper spray, and all the things needed to keep yourself protected when all you have is yourself out here in this world. You don't have somebody to depend on. You don't have family. You're not a boy. You don't have no boyfriends. You just got you, your own faith. So I get off the bus, and I was staying with a friend who was staying with his homegirl. I was walking down, I think it's Court C, but it was close towards 25th when you get off 19th, right there by Yakima, behind the little alleyway. I had already taken this alleyway probably like maybe 5 or 6 times before already because we just moved in. And as I walk the alleyway, I see like this white car, 2-door. Didn't think anything of it because I figured cars parked in the alley would mean they're probably waiting on somebody. And as I was walking, I was listening to my headphones. I was just jamming to some good music. I was walking, and I was, of course, trying to keep aware of my surroundings. I noticed that there was this black guy. Obviously, he was black. He was sitting in the passenger seat, so nobody was in the driver's seat. And I noticed he had this black tablet in his hand, and nothing was on the screen, though. There was no headphones in, and he had his head down like this, and he wore a black cap, all black, And he was leaning up against the passenger window like this with his tablet. Once again, I'm just walking by trying to get home, not thinking anything of it. I maybe like between 4 to 10 stops after his car, after passing his car, I feel something across my back. I feel something pointy, really sharp, just out of nowhere, like a strike sharpened pain just poked me in my back. And I got nervous, and right when I'm about to turn around, he's this dude who I just knew was in this car, because you see the passenger's door open, and there's only me and him in this alleyway. And he had on this sweater, and in his sweater, I don't know what he had in his sweater. If I would have heard him coming, maybe all of this could have been avoided. I had my headphones. And he had his hands in his sweater, because once all this situation occurred, I realized when his sweater got off, I didn't hear nothing clank. That's when I realized, okay, well, then obviously he didn't threaten me with the gun. But at the time, I felt like I didn't know what he had. And everybody, since I've been out here, is telling me, you don't want to live out here on the hilltop. And I'm thinking, like, I fear nothing. So yeah, something pointing at me. He's like, get in the car. And then I was kind of shook, scared straight, but I was holding my fear. So I was kind of calm. I was like, what? He's like, get in the car. And he had whatever he had pointing at me. And I kind of just listened to what he said. He said it multiple times. I just don't want to repeat it over. It's unnecessary. And at some point, I get into the passenger's car because the door was already open. All of a sudden, the car was already running. I didn't know these things, once again, if I wasn't listening to my music so loud. And I get into the car, and the doors locked instantly. And we drive around for like maybe 4 minutes. We drive around for about 4 minutes. I didn't know it was circles at the time. I didn't find this out until the police, helped me investigate, trying to figure all this out. But he just basically drove me around in circles because I didn't really know my place around here like that. And the whole time he's doing this, he's shaking his head, and I'm not doing anything. I'm right here. He's like, keep your hands in the fucking air. Keep your hands in the fucking air. So the whole time, I'm just like this, driving. He's driving, only 4 minutes, but it felt like a lifetime. I'm keeping my hands in the air at all times. And he stops in this alley next to a blue gate it was so out of place. Like, we walk down the alley, you see all the houses right here in this alley, and then there's just this big, bright blue gate. And he parks right here, and it's not all the way down the alley, it's just like if it was the covering a garage kind of gate. Big, bright blue. And he parked right there, and I still have my hands in the air. And he was shaking his head, and he was like, don't make me fucking bust your head. Just screaming, just saying everything so fast that I'm just trying to understand what he's saying. And at that point in time, I'm starting to get real nervous because obviously this man is fucking crazy. And I had to tell myself, no. You've been through this before. You know what not to do, which is fight back. It sounds like I'm being scared, or I don't know how the people perceive it naturally, but I just know that the closer he came towards me, he had grabbed me by my face, and he was like, if you dare try to fight back, I'll fucking kill you. But he said it way faster, and he kept repeating it. And I kept my hands in the air, and that's when he just kind of just like ripped off my shirt. And once he said, keep your hands in the fucking air, I said, this is exactly what I said. This is when everything changed. I said, bruh, I don't know this. I said, bruh, I'm not gonna fight you. I've gone through this my whole life. This is all I know, man. I leaned back, and I let him have his way with me, and I keep my hands in the air. And I could smell his filth. I could smell it on his breath. I could smell just old female body parts, like if he's been doing this for days. He just reeked of it. Coincidentally, there was another victim on the same street 2 days later. And come to find out he was a serial rapist. But I could smell old female body parts. That's just such a distinct smell the whole time. And he had his way. He had his way, and I just went into that same mind state that I did when I was 3, which is I left. I just mentally left, and I drove off, and I just kind of just distanced myself from the whole thing happening. Once it was done, I could definitely, that was the most distinctive memory I had, because all I was doing was trying to pinpoint distinctive things that I'll be able to bring forth to the attention once it's all done, by telling him, don't worry, I'm not calling the police, I'm not gonna fight you. People do this to me all the time, man, this is all I know, just do what you gotta do. And the moment he got closer, that's when I was able to smell, just on his clothes, his neck, he was bald. I tipped his hat off purposely so I could see if he had hair. Just everything had a distinct smell of a good old 4, possibly 5 days. It was at least a week's worth of just different types of aroma. It was so thick, and it was so distinct to where you could smell the different aromas for different people. I had told myself mentally, I had instantly said, I don't know how many times he's done this to how many people. And that's what scared me, because then I'm thinking of AIDS and HIV and everything, and how I'm just gonna allow this to happen. He possibly has it. My mind's going everywhere. At that point in time, as he's having his way, I kind of just distant myself, like I fall into the trance that I did when I was a kid, which was find a happy place. I don't know if people actually take the time to study that, but if you find a happy place, then you're able to get away from a lot of the pain. And I remember knocking off his cap. That's when I realized he was bald. I remember when he took off his sweater, I didn't hear a clank or nothing when he dropped it. So that's when I realized, okay, he didn't have no type of weapon, so then that could have went away, but I didn't. But I still played the right role. And then that's when he took off his shirt, and I saw the tattoos, and he had penitentiary criminal tatted across here. I was just like, oh man, this is just too much, this is too much, this is too much. So when it was all said and done, he just went numb. Like he just got off, and he sat in the driver's seat, like so, just went numb. Just stuck there. And I remember before he got off, I was looking at his eyes the whole time. This is all I'm doing. From the moment he decided to reach over, and you have to stay in the passenger seat with my hands up, I didn't really care anything about, what he looked like. I was just looking at the eyes, because the eyes is telling me everything I need to know. This is what I do. So I'm looking in his eyes, and he thinks he has no soul. He thinks he's cold. You know, you would think naturally if people saw him, he's really cold. There's evil that lies with him, and really he's just a lost soul. And he was probably addicted to drugs or something, I don't know. But I do know that I saw some pain in his eyes. And once he turned over and he went numb, at first I didn't know what to do, you know what I mean? Because he had to lock the door only on his side. The locks on the passenger side didn't work. And he's just sitting there, and I was like, I really have to go, because this was the same speech I was preaching from the beginning. I really need to go, you know. I kept calm. I kept saying, I have to go, you know, take my daughter to not Western Playland, what's the water place out here? Water Waves. Just any excuse, you know what I'm saying? I was about to go take my daughter to Water Waves. I really got to go. And so when all it was done, when it was all said and done, came back with the same excuse, trying to find a way. I made sure this whole time that my voice at no point in time reached such a high pitch to where he felt intimidated or he felt threatened by to where he wanted to cause pain. I was always calm and copacetic. In my mind, I'm losing it, though. I just know I got to stay calm, though, because that's what's going to keep them calm. And I said, excuse me, love. I got to go. He didn't say anything. He just stuck still. That scared me because he's lost in some type of trance. I don't know what it is, but it's just not something that I feel like I still needed to sit around and wait for him to kill me once he gets out this trance. So I literally reach over him, and the way I do it is like, it was leaned like this. So, and he was leaned up by the wheel like that. So I reached over him to the back, and I was making sure I was just kind of sliding myself on the carpet, or not the carpet of the texture of the car seat, because it was the old school texture with the patterns, furry type of feel. And I was making sure I brushed my arm all along that without touching his body whatsoever that can maybe trigger him to come out of that trance. And I remember just, that's when the whole it locks. And I move again slowly. I'm doing everything slow. And he's still just stuck still. So I get out the car at this point. I've closed the door at this point. I start walking down the alley at this point. It wasn't until I got to the very end of the alley, I look at him, and he's still stuck still for that split second, and then all of a sudden, he goes like that, he turns on his car, he reverses really fast, and the dust is just blowing in my face like I'm right here. He could have hit me if he didn't see. I'm right here, and just zooms off. Just drives off. And it was like, this didn't just happen. This is just the weirdest experience of my entire life. I didn't even think, my mind state at the time didn't even feel like it was a rape because of how weird this whole thing just played out. And I was lost. I didn't know where I was at, so I was walking for about 45 minutes until I found my way home. Little did I know, I lived right around the corner. And I was walking in circles because I didn't know this direction. And when I got home, my homeboy, the only friend I had at that time, and his homegirl who we were staying with, you know, I walk inside. I remember that the moment I got up, I saw all of his body fluid all over my pants. That's the only thing I kept remembering when I got out of the car, was just noticing all of that. And then his odor that you could smell. It was so strong you'd curl your lip just thinking about it. And I remember walking straight upstairs instantly. And my homeboy was like, what's going on with you, love? So we got some movies. And then his friend, Linda, was like, and I'm making chicken. I was like, I don't even eat chicken. And I went upstairs. And the only thing I could do was just rush to the bathroom. And right when I got to the bathroom, I was having the worst stomach pains. I was feeling just so sick to my stomach. So sick to my stomach. So sick. So sick. I couldn't breathe. Everything impacted me because it's like you're 24, you're 25 now. You can fight. You don't have to just endure this. You can fight. The fact that I did not have none of my weapons on that one day I carry him every day of my life. That one day, I instantly had to stop myself and realize that there's a reason behind it. Why is it that on this one day, this happens? So I take off my pants and I'm trying to scrub them out because I didn't really have any clothes. I was homeless at the time. I didn't have much but my dignity and my pride and ambition. And my homeboy comes back up. He was like, "Love, come watch these movies." And instantly I was like, "I'll be right back." I'd already wiped off my tears. I was like, "I'll be right back." They didn't know nothing as to what was going on until I had to let them know. They didn't find out until that next morning. I took myself to the hospital and I had to get that rape kit. I was in the hospital for about 12 hours. I had to get like 12 shots, take 12 pills. They had to bring me some clothes, and that's when I had informed the only two friends I had. I was like, "They're not gonna release me until you guys bring some clothes." They was like, "What are you doing at the hospital?" I was like, "They're not gonna release me until you guys bring some clothes." And that's when they start cussing me out and they're pissed off. And I don't really care too much about it. I'm detached from my emotions when it comes to people and their negative traits. I feel like it's a waste of time to acknowledge any of it. So once they get there, I've already told the nurses, multiple police officers, over and over and over for 12 hours at this point. When I told them, they was like, "This happened yesterday night when you got home?" I was like, yeah. Well, I mean, they're hearing my stories. I'm telling the police. That's when they walk in. And they're getting pissed off. And I'm thinking, like, I'm not really understanding why. At this point, I'm calm now because I know exactly what I needed to do the moment I was in that bathroom and I was about to break, which was, even though you didn't fight, you can speak. And this was the first time ever in my freaking life I stood up for myself. And instead of seeking revenge, which was all I was used to as a kid, that dark place, I did what I thought was the most right thing to do, which was definitely tell the police. Definitely do everything you told this dude you weren't going to do. Because I remember that when it was all said and done, in the back of my mind, I was telling myself, he doesn't know that I'm about to haunt this nigga's dreams. I'm just not seeking revenge in the way I used to, which was steeping to their level or trying to do something dark. It's more like sealing your fate, you know? Obviously, if you just came out of prison, and you're over here just thinking you can rape random women, well, let's see how far you get. And then that's when the police told me there was another victim on the exact same street 2 days later after me, except for she tried to fight, and she got thrown out the car, and she scraped her face up, and she got beat up. He bashed her face in like he threatened me, and I said, "I'm not gonna fight you, bruh." And yet, that's when I realized, no, you did everything you needed to. As much as we as women have pride, and we wanna fight just so we can feel like we have that dignity, there's more dignity in the fighting back at times when you know you do not have the strength to overcome a man who has more strength than you. That's when common sense should come into play, and you should just realize what's gonna happen, but figure out how you're gonna get back at the end. And that's what I did, and we've been working on this case ever since. I do know that he's already been charged for it. It's in the paper. His name is Kenny Travell Washington. If there was any message, if you don't mind, that I could deliver to him right now, it would be, I told you I'd get you. And you will see me again, because I will be there at your court date. I will be there at your appeal that you'll try to appeal with. I'll be there every single time you think you're alone. And everything, I remember everything, because there's more to the story, like the conversation, like I would try to keep him talking at that time. He knows. I was trying some ways to like flip the script by letting him know I'm not as innocent as you think, bruh. Like I was trying, so many chapters into this whole thing that happened, man. So many chapters. Point blank, it's tatted across my back. My motto is don't hunt what you can't kill. My spirit and my soul will always forever live. Love can never die. True love, that is. And the whole definition of true love is the fact that true love has no definition. At the time when I was a kid, it impacted my life to as dark as like I said, it was really dark days as a kid. I can't even really remember them because they were so traumatic. And it wasn't dark because I was going through these experiences. It was dark because they would take these experiences away from me, or these experiences wouldn't stay around. I was in trouble. You know, I had to see a lot of doctors and everything. And I was in 2 asylums. I was a cutter. My first suicide attempt was at 5, so obviously I was not in a good place. I couldn't overcome them at that age. Who can? They don't even know who they are. But then, that's when instead of having friends and going to school and focusing on everything else, I just focused on people and I focused on myself. I am my own lab rat, and I wanted to know what were triggers, emotions, body language, auras, everything that just makes us as people feel human, And I realized why I'm here. Once that occurred, everything changed. I even wrote it in a song called Never Over. And it was basically of the simple fact that I'm gonna go through some serious obstacles. Oh, and it was in the song called Farewell that I made for my mom. I'm gonna go through some serious obstacles. This was what I now consider a higher spirit at the time telling me, but as a kid, I just thought it was my subconscious, my mind, my own thoughts that kept repeating in my head that I'm gonna go through a lifetime of obstacles, if not even seek obstacles to go through, because I know that purposely, at the end of it all, I will be able to help those who are experiencing it get through it, because they won't know how. And sometimes, even as a kid, I would put myself in dangerous positions because I knew I was gonna overcome it. I felt like I couldn't see anything darker than what I've already seen. And I overcame every single one of them. The more obstacles that were put in front of me, the stronger I became, because then that's when I realized to every negative situation, there's always gonna be a positive outlook. It's just whether or not you wanna take the time to calm yourself down, calm down your mind, clear your mind, and find out what that positive outlook will be, because it's not gonna show themselves as easy as those negative outcomes are happening. You gotta seek it and then believe in it and do it. And that's all I kept doing. That was my addiction as a child, which was seeking pain. And most of it I didn't seek. It was pretty much endured because of my family, where I was staying. A lot of abuse, a lot of physical abuse. I'm not hit my brothers. But to me, that pain was the only thing I knew as love. So I was able to alter pain and turn pain into love, ergo not knowing what pain would ever feel like after that, seeing only light. So I defended everything by only believing in love and the whole definition of it. I know that you're confused, and I know that you feel hurt. In fact, I tell this to older women too. Realize, though, that you are not a victim. There's no need to be a victim. You are not a victim. That's what they want. But you need to ask yourself, what is your self-worth? And once you realize what your self is worth, to make sure everything that occurs to you will be the last time it happens. Instill in others that you, as a person, as a general, as a whole, will never fall, will never die. No one can break you. If you're going through emotions, if you're hiding in the shadows of your own soul, come out and speak with me, because that's why we're here, because we're the ones who can endure this shit. And if we're still strong, if we're still alive, if we're still breathing, why is it that I'm the only one speaking right now? Like, come out and be with me so we can maybe save our future. You're here for a reason, so don't play the victim.